In this video, we are going to solve a really interesting 3D geometry problem. The figure looks complicated at first, but once we break it down into simple shapes, the solution becomes way easier. So first of all, we are given a solid made up of 3 different shapes stacked on top of each other. They are respectively a prism, at the bottom a cylinder in the middle, and lastly a cone on top. Every dimension is written in terms of r. This is a dimension, this is a dimension, this, and also this. And we are also told in the question that r is equal to 3.5 centimeters. Now our task is to find both the volume and the total surface area of this given solid. So let's try to solve it step by step. But remember, before doing any calculations, it is important to identify the shapes involved. For example, at the bottom here, we have the square prism. The side length of the square base is 2r, and the height of it is r. On top of it sits this cylinder, which has the radius r. And lastly, on top of the cylinder, there is this cone, which also has the radius r and the height r. So in a nutshell, the entire solid is made from these 3 different parts. And as I have already mentioned earlier, the key to solving such problems is to break these complicated constructions into simple shapes, calculate them separately, and then combine the results together. Personally, I think this method is the most feasible to use while dealing with such problems. But, of course, you can set up the formulas of these shapes side by side, but here we will be solving them separately. Okay, now to calculate the volume of the prism, we need its formula. So we will write the volume of this prism as V1, which is equal to base area multiplied by height. And as we know that, in order to find the area of a rectangular, we need to multiply its length with its breadth. So we would multiply 2r with 2r in order to get the base area, and then the r, which is the height. And if we multiply them up together, then we get 4r cubed as a result. And now Timur, this is basically the volume of the prism. And now to calculate the volume of the cylinder, we need V2 is equal to pi multiplied by radius square multiplied by height, where the radius is r and the height is also r. So substituting gives us pi
r
cube. And this is the volume of this cylinder. And now, the cone on top. The formula for finding the volume of a cone is 1/3
by
r square into h, which is the height, and r square for the radius. And if we add up the vowels together, then we get by r square,
r,
which results to 1/3 pi r cubed. And these are the volumes of the all required shapes we have in this construction. Now our final step is to add up all of these values together. So volume total is equal to volume 1 plus volume 2 plus volume 3. And now, placing these values here, 4r cubed plus pi r cubed plus 1/2 by r cube. Then, if we factor out r cubed, then we get 4 plus pi plus 1/3 pi. And then we are given that the value of r is basically 3.5 centimeter. So if we put 3.5 centimeter here, then 3 gets this 3.5 multiplied by 4 plus pi plus 1/3. 9. And calculating with a calculator, we get the result to be 351.09 centimeter cube. Don't forget this cube for the van of the volume. And hence we're done with finding the volume of this construction, which is approximately 151.09 centimeter cube. And now, let's move on to the second part, which is calculating the surface area. Here's the most important idea for such problems. So we only count surfaces that are exposed to the outside, which means that any surfaces where two shapes touch each other do not count, because they are like hidden inside the solid. So the surface we include are the 4 sides of the square prism. And then the bottom of the square prism, the top square around the cylinder, then the surface around the cylinder itself, and lastly, the curved surface of the cones. So, let's find out the 4 rectangular sides of the prism. Each side has 2 dimensions, and in this case, we have here 2r and r. So if we multiply them together, then we get the area of one side, which is area of one side, which is 2r multiplied by r. And as a result, we get 2r squared. And we can now see that there are 4 sides of this prism. So now, if we multiply them together, then we get the area of 4 sides. Area of 4 sides, which is 4 into 2r squared. And it gives us the value 8r squared. Next, the bottom square, where each side is 2r. And as a result, we get the area to be 2r multiplied by 2r. And we get 4r squared as the solution. So now we deduct the circle, where the cylinder sits, basically this part, from the top square, which is this part. So, the area of the square, area of this square, four r squared, and the circle area is pi r squared. So if we deduct them, then we get the area of this part, which is the visible part of this surface. So the visible part is equal to 4r squared minus pi r squared. Now, the curved surface of this cylinder, and for this, we need this formula. Curved surface. That is 2 pi r h, where r is radius and h is height. And we know that here radius is equal to r and height is also equal to r. So we get as a result 2 pi r square. And then for the cone, we got to use the Pythagoras theorem in order to find the slant height. So slant height is equal to root, then brackets r square plus r square. And if we simplify this, then we get 2r, and lastly, r root 2. Now, using the cone surface formula, we get area is equal to pi r L. And by adding the val, we get pi r square into root 2. Now, adding everything together and putting r is equal to 3.5 centimeter, we get pi 3.5 square root 2. So our final result is approximately 280.91 centimeters square. So our final result of both of these solutions are volume is equal to approximately 351.09 cm cubes, and surface area is equal to 288.91 centimeters square. And again, the key strategy for problems like this is breaking complicated solids into simple shapes. So if you found this explanation helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more math tutorials. See you in the next one.